questions. That's what Baldwin County investigators are going over right now after a huge money seizure along I-65.
Today, the Interstate Interdiction Task Force found this money in a search of a semi on I-65 in Baldwin County.
Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. What the feds just uncovered in Floyd Mayweather's house is terrifying. They're going after Floyd Mayweather's bag. Remember the brother that walked around with $100 million check in his bag, said he ain't even got to cash it? Well, they on his line.
Floyd Mayweather just lost everything. And no, this isn't just another headline. From private jets and billion-dollar bragging rights to whispers of scams, lawsuits, and a $402 million financial disaster, the money man may be out of money. Is this the fall of boxing's most controversial empire, or the biggest scam in sports history? Let's break it all down. Floyd Mayweather as money. He was just a kid from New Brunswick, New Jersey, living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment with 6 family members. There was no heat, no lights, and certainly no silver spoons. His mother struggled with substance abuse. His father, a former boxer himself, was in and out of prison. Floyd didn't just grow up around boxing, he was born into it, molded by survival. His earliest memories weren't of championships or cameras, but of darkness and cold. Yet, even in those conditions, Floyd never cried, never complained. He trained. By the time he hit the Olympic stage in 1996 and secured a bronze medal, Floyd already had the work ethic of a champion. In the early professional years, he was known as Pretty Boy Floyd, quick, smooth, technically brilliant, and nearly untouchable in the ring. But behind the scenes, he was battling more than opponents. Despite his dominance, Floyd wasn't earning what he felt he deserved. Under top-rank promotions, he was bringing in just a few million per fight, while his bouts were generating tens of millions in revenue. That's when everything changed. In 2006, Mayweather made the boldest move of his career. He bought out his contract with Top Rank for $750,000, betting on himself in a way that few fighters ever had. It was a risky decision. Stepping out from under the protection of a powerful promoter meant he had to build something new entirely on his own. But Floyd wasn't just looking to be a fighter anymore. He wanted to be a mogul. This was the birth of Money Mayweather. With his new company, Mayweather Promotions, he took complete control over his fights, his image, and, most importantly, the revenue. From there, his fortune exploded. Within a few years, he was commanding $100 million plus per fight, becoming the highest-paid athlete in the world and rewriting the blueprint for how boxers could do business. But when the money started rolling in, so did the problems. Floyd Mayweather didn't just rebrand, he reinvented the business of boxing. Gone was the humble, soft-spoken pretty boy. In his place stood Money Mayweather, the man with private jets, Bugattis, and $1 million watch collections, all filmed and flaunted on social media. He wore his arrogance like armor, walking into press conferences draped in luxury, throwing cash into crowds, taunting rivals with cold precision. And the craziest part? It worked. Floyd became the most hated man in the sport, and that was exactly the point. He understood something most athletes never grasp. People didn't have to love you to pay to see you. In fact, it was better if they didn't. The world paid to watch him lose. And when he didn't, they paid again and again and again. In marketing terms, he became the perfect heel, the villain you couldn't ignore. And while others chased titles, Floyd chased attention. He fought smart. He picked his opponents carefully, played mind games masterfully, and walked away from every bout with both the win and the bag. His record remained flawless. 50 wins, 0 losses. But outside the ring, the admiration was more conflicted. Fans praised his defensive genius, but criticized his showmanship. Commentators called him the most strategic fighter of all time, while simultaneously questioning his ego. His self-promotion was unmatched, but so was the backlash. Mayweather wasn't just a boxer, he was a brand, a lifestyle, a walking contradiction. He didn't care if you respected him, just that you tuned in. And tune in they did. With great wealth came even greater excess. Floyd Mayweather's spending wasn't just extravagant, it was legendary. From walking into Gucci with $1 million in a duffel bag to closing down entire malls for private $15 million shopping sprees, Mayweather lived like a man untouchable by consequence. His Instagram was a shrine to opulence. Fleets of luxury cars, diamond-encrusted watches worth more than most homes, and stacks of cash spread across hotel beds like confetti. He once revealed his most expensive watch cost $18 million. But while Floyd was counting millions, his relationships were falling apart. The first cracks appeared within his own family. Floyd Sr., his father and early trainer, publicly admitted that their relationship deteriorated as Floyd's fame and spending increased. They once shared a tight bond, united by boxing. But as Floyd's obsession with wealth grew, so did the distance between them. "We never had arguments," his father once said, "until the money came in. It wasn't about training anymore. It was about pride, control, and who really deserved the credit." Then came the fallout with 50 Cent, once one of Floyd's closest friends and business collaborators. Their bromance was the stuff of hip-hop headlines until it imploded. 50 Cent later revealed that Floyd became consumed by money, no longer valuing loyalty or friendship. Their partnership soured over financial disputes, with 50 claiming Floyd refused to repay investments and began treating people as disposable. And perhaps the most painful split came with Gervonta "Tank" Davis, Mayweather's prized protege. Tank accused Floyd of purposely keeping him dependent, of feeding him crumbs to maintain control. Despite the fame and fight purses, Tank felt exploited, more like a pawn than a partner. "They put you in a position where you always need them," Tank said. "To the world, it looks like they're helping, but it's manipulation." These weren't isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a pattern. As Floyd's fortune skyrocketed, trust eroded, and the people who once stood by him began walking away. His wealth was real, but so was the cost of keeping it. And with every mansion built and every bridge burned, a question grew louder. Was this the price of greatness or greed? As Floyd's bank account swelled, so did his ego, and not everyone was clapping. While Mayweather's skill was never in question, his arrogance became a central talking point, especially when he openly dismissed boxing legends like Muhammad Ali. In an infamous interview, Floyd boldly stated, "Out of all these fighters in the history of boxing, I've accomplished more than every fighter in the history of boxing." He cited Ali's losses, including to Leon Spinks, who had just 7 professional fights, and went further by suggesting Ken Norton had beaten Ali all 3 times they met, an opinion not widely supported by historians or analysts. The backlash was immediate. Stephen A. Smith, one of ESPN's most prominent voices, called Floyd's comments blasphemous, reminding audiences that legacy isn't just about records, it's about what you stood for. Ali fought not only in the ring, but outside of it, for civil rights, for dignity, for something bigger than himself. Mayweather, Smith argued, stood only for money. Mike Tyson also weighed in, calling Floyd too into himself, and warning that eventually, all fighters must confront reality. Tyson, who had walked the same path of superstardom, excess, and isolation, suggested that Floyd's detachment from humility was damaging not just to his relationships, but to his soul. The public seemed to agree. People didn't tune in to Mayweather fights out of admiration. They tuned in hoping to see him lose. In fact, many fans considered it a spectator sport to root against him. His brilliance in the ring was undeniable, but outside it, he was a symbol of unchecked ego. He'd become the villain, and not just by choice. This narrative hit even harder with Tank Davis, Floyd's once loyal protege. Tank didn't just part ways professionally, he did so emotionally, accusing Floyd of manipulating him into dependency. Davis described a subtle but persistent strategy of control, giving just enough to keep someone loyal, but never enough to make them independent. His words weren't said in anger. They were delivered with pain, almost like a warning to others. The deeper the riches, the deeper the rift. Floyd's relationships were fraying under the weight of his own success. and the world was starting to ask, at what point does legacy become collateral damage? After retiring undefeated in 2017, Floyd Mayweather could have stepped away from the sport as a legend, but instead, he entered a new chapter, one that many argue is tarnishing his legacy, the era of the exhibition match. It started with a bang, a lucrative exhibition against Japanese kickboxer Tenshin Nasukawa, followed by a headline-grabbing bout against YouTube star Logan Paul. These matches, while profitable, were viewed as sideshows by many in the boxing community. They lacked competitiveness, carried no official stakes, and felt more like cash grabs than sporting events. Critics didn't hold back. Chael Sonnen, a former MMA star and outspoken commentator, said bluntly, "Floyd's still fighting because he needs the money." Sonnen claimed Floyd never earned as much as the headline suggested, and that his post-career exhibitions were driven not by passion, but by necessity. Eddie Hearn, one of boxing's most respected promoters, also took aim. He called Mayweather's events naff, suggesting they had become irrelevant to serious fans and unlikely to bring in the pay-per-view numbers of old. When Mayweather fought at London's O2 Arena in early 2023, Hearn said bluntly, "I don't know anyone who even knew the fight was happening." Then came the controversies over fighter pay. Logan Paul publicly accused Mayweather of failing to pay him his full cut from their bout, a claim that added fuel to growing concerns about Floyd's financial transparency. Deji, another influencer who fought Mayweather, also implied financial dealings weren't as smooth or professional as fans might expect from a former world champion. These aren't isolated accusations. They reflect a deeper pattern. Critics began to ask, "You made $1 billion, Floyd, but did you pay your people?" The more these stories came out, the more fans started to question whether Mayweather's obsession with money had turned from business strategy into something more desperate. What began as a power move, building his own empire, now looked increasingly like damage control. Behind the sparkling veneer of private jets and championship belts, troubling signs began to emerge. In 2023, Business Insider published a report scrutinizing Floyd's claims of real estate dominance. While Mayweather had publicly claimed to own over 60 properties, the investigation revealed that many of these were co-owned or financed through complex arrangements, and that his true ownership stake was far less than advertised. The article questioned whether Mayweather had embellished his holdings to maintain his brand. Then came the $402 million scam allegations, tied to a cryptocurrency promotion that Floyd endorsed, a move that drew the attention of the SEC. While Floyd denied any wrongdoing, the financial and legal implications sparked headlines and further fueled the growing narrative. The empire might be hollow. Perhaps the most bizarre chapter was the rumor that Floyd had been trapped in Dubai due to unpaid debts. Online, the story gained traction fast, especially when fans believed Floyd was being detained overseas. But then, out of nowhere, a viral TikTok showed Mayweather sitting courtside at a Clippers game in Los Angeles. The internet lit up. Was the Dubai story fake? Was it a clone? Why didn't the stadium spotlight Floyd as the celebrity guest of the night? The truth is still unclear. Some believe the Dubai claim was a hoax. Others think he quietly resolved a legal issue before reappearing. What's certain is that these types of stories would have been unthinkable at the peak of his career. And then there's Chael Sonnen's bombshell. In an interview, Sonnen claimed that despite all the hype about $100 million nights and billion-dollar earnings, Floyd may have only earned around $100 million in total net profit over his entire career. A shocking contrast to the narrative Floyd built, but one that's supported by the sheer cost of his lifestyle, legal fees, entourage payroll, and non-stop spending. Suddenly, the empire that once seemed untouchable began to show cracks. Mayweather might have built the richest brand in boxing history, but did he also build a house of cards? Once, Floyd Mayweather's fights were cultural events, blockbuster nights that united celebrities, sports fans, and casual viewers around a common goal: to watch Floyd win, or better yet, to finally see him lose. Now, those golden nights feel like a distant memory. In recent years, Mayweather has shifted entirely to exhibition fights, unregulated, unofficial bouts that blur the line between sport and spectacle. But where fans once paid top dollar to see him box, the buzz has faded. His 2023 exhibition against British reality TV star Aaron Chalmers at London's iconic O2 Arena was a stark contrast to the sold-out spectacles of the past. Attendance was so poor that large sections of the arena remained empty, despite heavy promotion. Even industry insiders like Eddie Hearn admitted they didn't know anyone who was even aware the fight was happening. Pay-per-view sales? A fraction of what they once were. The optics were clear. The man who once headlined record-breaking events now struggled to fill a venue. Worse still, questions about Floyd's true financial health began swirling like never before. How could the man who claimed to have made over $1 billion in his career still be fighting for relatively small purses against unknown opponents? Prominent voices in combat sports have sounded the alarm. Chael Sonnen has repeatedly questioned Floyd's earnings, suggesting that much of the billion-dollar narrative was inflated for brand value, not reality. According to Sonnen, Floyd's net take-home earnings could be closer to $100 million after taxes, team expenses, lifestyle maintenance, and luxury overheads are factored in. When you consider that Mayweather reportedly spent $1 million a month just on upkeep for his fleet of vehicles, private planes, and staff, the math starts to make sense, and not in a good way. Then came the Dubai scandal, a viral rumor claiming Mayweather was being held in the UAE due to unpaid debts. It was quickly disputed after a TikTok user spotted him courtside at an NBA game, but the fact that so many people believe the story speaks volumes. Public faith in Mayweather's financial status had eroded. To fans, the man who had spent years building an image of limitless wealth suddenly looked vulnerable. And then, the question echoed through comment sections, forums, and fan circles. He sold the dream of wealth, but was it all a facade? When you strip away the glitter, the Gucci, and the glare of luxury watches, what remains of Floyd Mayweather's legacy? In the ring, his record is untouchable. 50 wins, 0 losses. He faced elite competition across multiple weight classes and, at his peak, made world champions look like amateurs. His defensive mastery and ring IQ changed how boxing was viewed. A true technician in a sport often dominated by brute force. Floyd Mayweather is without question one of the greatest boxers to ever live. But outside the ropes, the picture is murkier. He reinvented the business model of boxing. Yes, he became the blueprint for financial independence in a sport notorious for exploitation. But as he scaled the heights of fame and fortune, his personal life unraveled. Friendships collapsed under the weight of money, from 50 Cent's betrayal to the heartbreaking departure of Tank Davis, who went from protege to critic. His relationship with his father, once foundational to his success, was damaged by power struggles and pride. Business partners, fans, even fellow athletes grew wary of Floyd's arrogance. And for many in the boxing world, his relentless pursuit of wealth came at the cost of something even greater: respect. He alienated boxing purists with his exhibitions. He angered critics with dismissive comments about icons like Muhammad Ali. And he created a public image so heavily tied to materialism that any sign of vulnerability, like a bounced paycheck or an empty arena, felt like poetic justice to those who once rooted for his downfall. Still, it would be dishonest to call Floyd a failure. He redefined success on his own terms. He made more money than any other boxer in history. He left the sport with his brain, body, and bank account mostly intact, something most fighters can only dream of. But perhaps that's the tragic beauty of Floyd's story. He won every round in the ring, yet lost so much outside of it. The greatest defensive boxer the sport has ever seen may have built walls so high, not even those closest to him could reach him anymore. In protecting himself from financial predators and rivals, he may have also walled himself off from genuine connection, loyalty, and legacy. So we're left with one final haunting question. Floyd Mayweather might have won every fight in the ring, but did he lose the battle of life? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video to support the channel. Subscribe to Boxing is Here for the latest updates, fight breakdowns, and expert analysis. And turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Until next time, peace out.